It's a big day. It's the day after the Boston Marathon, and if you ran yesterday, congratulations on finishing the world's greatest marathon, the world's most prestigious marathon. I want to talk today about marathon recovery, and the Boston Marathon course is particularly challenging because of the hills, and more specifically than that, because of where the hills come within the race. You can really damage your muscles early in the race with those downhills, and then those huge uphills in Newton really come at a tough time for runners at about mile 20 or 21. And so what we're going to talk about in this video is how to maximize your post-marathon recovery. And it all starts as soon as you cross the finish line. What I like to do as soon as you cross the finish line of any marathon, whether it's Boston or a flat and fast marathon, is to keep moving. The last thing that you want to do is go sit on the ground or take a seat somewhere and really just let your muscles bind up and get really, really tight. So let's keep moving. And the second thing you should do is really focus on your post-marathon nutrition. Now's the time to really start taking in a lot of fluids, and let's prioritize calories. Your body is in an enormous calorie deficit at this point, and after a marathon is not the time to worry about the quality of your calories. Let's get the calories in your body so that you can start restocking glycogen stores so that you can get more electrolytes into your system, because no doubt you are low on electrolytes. And let's get some protein in your body so that you can start rebuilding all of those damaged muscles. So let's not worry about what we're eating just now. After all, if we can't treat ourselves with whatever food we want after a marathon, when can we? So at this point after the marathon, you've walked a little bit, you've kept moving, you've started to prioritize your post-race nutrition and hydration. Let's not make that super complicated. Let's just get some food in you as soon as possible. And then hopefully within an hour or two, you can actually have a full meal. Now, there are some things that you should absolutely not do right after a marathon. Number one, let's not do a ton of static stretching. Really, let's not do much at all. Your muscles are damaged. There are micro tears in your muscle fibers, and stretching those muscles is not going to help that muscle damage. It's not going to help your recovery, and in fact, it could prolong your recovery over time. So let's avoid that static stretching. Let's also avoid doing any kind of massage. I know that those massage tables near the finish line might be a little tempting, but like we said earlier, your muscles are damaged right now, and we don't want to continue that process of damaging your muscles by applying a lot of pressure, by applying some compression with someone's hand, or even getting on an aggressive foam roller or using a lacrosse ball or other massage device. Right now, you need to manage the damage within your muscles. So instead of getting a massage, instead of doing some static stretching, now's the time to do some things that we normally don't do in our training. Things like popping some ibuprofen. Right now, you're probably fairly inflamed, so a little bit of ibuprofen can manage some of that acute inflammation right now. It's not something that you want to take for days and days. It will short circuit the recovery process after a little while, but right at the beginning, I think it's a good idea. It's also a good idea to take an ice bath, because after all, we're trying to limit the oxidative damage, all the inflammation that's going on right now in our muscles. And after a marathon, it's almost like we've done too much too soon. Right now, we've almost gotten ourselves injured. We've experienced all this inflammation. So what we can do now is everything we can to reduce that inflammation. So sure, pop some ibuprofen. You can take an ice bath once you get back to your hotel room or your home if you live nearby Boston, or whatever marathon you might have just run. And this is going to start limiting the damage that your muscles have experienced so that you can really focus on recovery. Next, we are going to focus on the number one recovery tool at our disposal, sleep. Now, if you can, the day of the marathon, try to take a nap. Now, this can be a little bit more challenging with the Boston Marathon because it does start later in the day. So you don't have as much of your afternoon to take a good nap as you might with a different marathon. But if you can swing a nap, whether it's 30 minutes or even up to 90 minutes, because 90 minutes will get you that full sleep cycle. It'll get you into some deeper sleep, some delta wave or REM sleep. And while that's really great for recovery, it might make you feel a little groggy afterward, but right now we're not worried about the grogginess. We are really worried about maximizing recovery. So if you can, take that nap. And let's really try to prioritize our night's sleep that night. Now, for a lot of runners, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get to sleep. Your body is almost in fight or flight mode, and you have a lot of stress hormones like cortisol, snaking through your system. This isn't a great place to be. And one of the reasons why we might want to take some ibuprofen or take an ice bath is to reduce some of those stress hormones, to reduce some of the inflammation that's going on in our body, so that we can finally settle down and go to sleep the night of our marathon. I know that when I ran my PR marathon at the Philadelphia Marathon, I had trouble sleeping that night, which was very surprising to me because I thought, hey, I just run 26.2 miles at what I thought was a fairly fast pace. I should be tired, right? Well, I was, but my body just wasn't ready to shut down and really go to sleep. So do everything you can to really relax and get yourself in a more neutral state before prioritizing your sleep the night after a marathon. I'm excited to announce that this video is sponsored by Roll Recovery. They are a Boulder, Colorado-based company that makes some of the most innovative massage and recovery tools on the market. And I had one of their co-founders, Adriana Nelson, on the podcast very recently, and she has built an amazing company that gives back to the community, and I'm thrilled to partner with them. Roll Recovery also makes the R4 body roller, which is my favorite foam roller. It is hollow, it is fairly hard, and it has this wonderful groove in the center, which makes rolling out your IT band and all the musculature around the IT band really, really satisfying. So if you haven't yet used this roller and you have a cranky IT band, this thing is amazing. Now, many of their products are FDA-approved medical devices. That's how good they are. And Roll Recovery is partnered with physical therapists and elite athletes to make some of these really innovative products. Probably one of their most well-known recovery tools is the R8 Deep Tissue Massage Roller. Now, this thing is incredible because you can pull it apart, put it on one of your muscles, and give yourself a very custom type of massage. And with the dial here on the top, you can really update and change the amount of pressure that you're giving yourself. And you'll see here that I have two types of rollers here on the R8, and that's because this one has grooves and is a little bit more firm, and this one is softer. So you can buy different attachments to give yourself these different types of massages. Now, I also have my favorite foot massager, the R3 Orthopedic foot roller. This has multiple types of grooves within it, so you can really get at your arch or your plantar fascia. And I'm someone who likes to keep this under my desk. So Roll Recovery, I really appreciate the quality and the care that you put into your products. These are very innovative massage tools that I wish I had when I was running 90 miles a week. And you can learn more about all their different products at rollrecovery.com. The next part of marathon recovery is more long-term. It's what you do in the days and even the weeks after a marathon. Now, the marathon is a very unique event. It's not like your typical mid-distance track race, and it's not even like other long road races like a half marathon. A marathon is particularly difficult. It's run on the road, so there's going to be a lot of muscle damage, and it's long. So at 26.2 miles, you are going to be on your feet for hours and hours. If you're a more competitive athlete, you're going to be trying to run a very long distance at a very challenging pace. And recovery from an effort like that takes a little bit more than a couple days. Even if your legs and your muscles feel somewhat recovered after 4, 5, or maybe even 6 days, it takes more time for your body to be 100% recovered. And that's because the marathon damages a lot more things than just your leg muscles. After all, if you think about it, your heart is a muscle, and your heart does become slightly damaged after a marathon. Now, That's usually no need for concern because just like any other muscle, it will rebuild itself and it will come back stronger, just like your calf muscle or your quadricep muscle. Now, this phenomenon can be a little bit more pronounced in less trained runners, which is just another great reason to respect the marathon distance and make sure that you are fully prepared for 26.2 miles. And so let's really ensure we are taking the days after the marathon very, very easy. If you want to do a very short 20, maybe 25-minute easy swim or cycle or walk the day after a marathon just to get the legs moving a little bit, I think that's just fine. Let's optimize for low impact or zero impact cross training because after all, we don't really want to spend too much time on your feet. You don't want to add to any of this muscle damage. And so the next question becomes, well, what do we do in the week or 2 or 3 after the marathon? Here's where a lot of runners go astray because a week after their marathon, they might be feeling pretty good and they might start running again. And that's okay. I advise most runners to take roughly a week off, maybe 5 to 10 days, depending on how psychologically ready you are to start running again, and also just how beat up you feel after the marathon. But the key here is not to do anything too long or too intense. And it's the intensity side of things that can lead a lot of runners astray, because that's where the potential for injury is at its highest. So let's avoid any intense running. I even think when you start running that first week back, we shouldn't do any workouts and we shouldn't do any strides. Let's not run fast at all. Let's just get it back into the rhythm of running so that we're keeping everything very easy. We're not introducing any very high heart rates or trying to generate a lot of muscular force with our legs. We want to avoid that right now and really just focus on easy, comfortable, conversational, controlled running so that we can continue with this multi-week post-marathon recovery process. And then, and only then, are you ready to get back to normal training, probably 3 to 4 weeks after the marathon. So I hope this video is helpful as you think about your post-marathon recovery. Whether it's the Boston Marathon or a different marathon, we've got to respect the 26.2 mile distance. It is long, it is challenging, and it puts our body through a lot of stress. If we can be strategic with our recovery, if we can be strategic with our comeback to training after the marathon, we are really going to capitalize on all the fitness that we're able to build during the marathon training season, and also the amazing performance that we undoubtedly had on marathon day. And then you'll be fully recovered and you can really take your training to the next level once you're fully recovered. So for those who ran Boston, I hope you had an amazing race, and just as importantly, I hope your recovery goes well so you can get on to the next goal.